Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing a Builder Gel infill with a mermaid inspired gel polish design. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now I'm working on my own nails. You may have remembered that a couple of weeks back I'd done this baby boomer set of nails using the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel. So I've had these on around just over 3 weeks and it's now time to do the infill. Now I will leave a link in the description box below to how I did this set in case you've missed it, so do check that out. But jumping into today's video, I'm starting off by wiping over all of the nails using one of the Kiki London alcohol pads. This is just to make sure that they're nice and clean, ready to begin the treatment. Then I'm going to come in with my Kiki London hand file and I'm going to use the 100 grit side of the file to start filing down the bulk of the nail. Now, when I created this set of nails, I did a clear base, my baby boomer design, and then I encapsulated in clear. So depending on what design you want to do next, you could either file right down to that thin clear base, or you can just file down some of the bulk and infill over the top, which is what I'm going to do because I'm not going to be doing another Builder Gel design. I'm going to infill with the Builder Gel, but then I'm going to do a gel polish design over the top. So I don't need to go right down to that clear base. I'm just filing off the sort of bulk so that I can infill and rebalance the nail. Now, as you can see, I'm focusing my file on the middle to tip end of the nail, and that's because I'm using the 100 grit side, so I don't want to accidentally touch my natural nail plate with the 100 grit side of the file. So I'm being really cautious. And then I'm going to flip around and use the 180 grit side of the file to work on that part of the gel that's going to be closer to the natural nail. Now here I'm just pointing out I have a tiny bit of lifted Builder Gel. So what I'm going to do is file just above the line where that piece of gel has lifted, and it will basically just flake away. But it is really important that you remove any lifted Builder Gel, because otherwise when you add your next layer of gel over the top, it will cause that to lift from the natural nail as well. So it's really important that you do remove any of that, and you do have to be quite careful because you don't want to file into the natural nail plate when you are removing it. I think it was only this finger and maybe the middle finger that I had a tiny bit of lifting on. These nails lasted really well on me. I had them on for just over 3 weeks, which is especially good for me because I only usually get 2 weeks out of my nails before I've wrecked them. But they held up brilliantly. I was really impressed with the strength of them, and they have really helped my natural nails grow underneath as well. So I'm still just continuing to filing this down to a medium thickness product. As you can see here, I've removed some more of that lifted Builder Gel. I had a little bit more than I thought, to be honest. I think what had happened is where I'd filed away some of the lifted, it can cause a little bit more of the gel to lift off. So you do have to be careful, but it's fine. It was just a small amount. And then what I did is I blended that in to my natural nail plate by gently filing with the 180 grit file. Then I repeated those steps on all 5 nails, just doing exactly the same as I did on the pointer finger. So I've taken them down to a medium thickness level, and then I've cleaned away all of that dust using a nail brush, and I did also wipe over them, I believe, with an alcohol pad as well. Now it's time to come in and prep the natural nail growth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Kiki London cuticle pusher and begin pushing back my cuticles. Now up on the Kiki London channel, I do have a more thorough and in-depth prep video. So I will leave that linked in the description box below because I go into a lot more detail about prep there. But when you are prepping for an infill, you need to be as thorough as what you are when you're doing prep for a full new set. So you need to make sure that you remove all of that cuticle from the nail plate, and you need to make sure that you prepare that nail plate ready for your base coat and your Builder Gel. So I use the first end of the cuticle pusher to push those cuticles back, and then I love this end of the cuticle pusher to really get down into those sidewalls and to lift away any of that stubborn cuticle. Now I have been using my Kiki London cuticle oil on a regular basis, so I found my cuticles were really really easy to prep. They were nice and soft. There was no tough cuticle to remove kind of thing. So I was able to get away with just pushing them back and scraping away some of the excess. I didn't need to come in with my e-file or any of my nippers, to be honest. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently etch the natural nail plate using the 180 grit side of my file. Like I said, if you check out the prep video, it's a lot more thorough. I'm just flying through in this video so we can get on to actually infilling the nails and doing a design. So then I'm going to take a fresh Kiki London alcohol pad and I'm going to use this to cleanse and dehydrate my natural nail plate. So I'm removing all of that dust, but then I'm really getting down into those side walls and giving the natural nail plate a good scrub just to make sure to remove any of the natural nail oils so that we're left with a dehydrated nail. And then I'm going to come in with my Kiki London primer. So I'm taking a very small amount of primer and I'm just applying this to that new natural nail growth. You don't need to take this over the builder gel. This is just prime and prep that natural nail plate. You do need to allow your primer to air dry before coming in with your base coat, and I'm going to be using the rubber base today. I love the rubber base in combination with the builder gels, but it is especially good for any weakened or brittle nails. It's just that little bit stronger than your regular base coat. Like I've said in previous videos, that does make it a little bit thicker, but as you can see here, you're still able to apply a really nice thin layer. Now I'm only focusing the rubber base on my natural nail plate. Your builder gel that you've got remaining, that doesn't need the layer of base coat over it, so you just need to pop it down on the natural nail plate. And then I'm going to be infilling these today using the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel in Nude Tone. So this is the same builder gel I used to do the Baby Boomer or Ombre nail. So I'm just going to infill with this one. I'm not worrying about creating a design with this. I'm simply going to be using this to build up the nail, and then we're going to do that gel polish design on top. So I've come in with a thin wet layer of gel. This is known as your slip layer, and I've made sure to get this nice and neat to the cuticles without getting any on the skin. And then I've taken that down over the entire surface of the nail. Now with your slip layer, you leave it wet and then you come in with your larger ball of gel, and then I've placed that down just slightly away from the cuticle area, and then I'm just walking that down to cover the entire nail. As you can see, I take my brush from side to side and it just effortlessly flows down the nail because you've got that wet slip layer there. Then I pop that first nail into cure. Now, if I was doing this on a client, whilst the first nail on this hand was curing, I would be working on the other hand to save time. But obviously it's a little bit different here because I'm doing it on myself. So I've just let that cure before moving on to the second nail. Again, coming in exactly the same as before, being really careful when I apply that thin wet slip layer that I don't get any on the skin or the cuticles, because if you do get that first layer of gel on the skin or the cuticles, your second layer of gel will follow it. And that's one of the reasons why we love the slip layer, because it helps our gel know where to go when we're working with a thicker ball of gel. But we don't want to get that slip layer on the skin because, like I said, that thicker layer will end up on the skin as well. So I'm going to show you guys one more time. So I come in with that really thin slip layer. As you can see, I'm allowing my brush to fan out so I can get nice and close to the cuticles and the side walls, but just applying a thin layer of gel. Then I'm going to pick up a larger ball of gel, and as you can see, I kind of bring it to the tip of my brush, and then I place it down just slightly away from the cuticle area and wriggle it from my brush. Now here I noticed I'd picked up way too much gel than what I needed, so I just wiped some back into the bottle, because it makes it a little bit harder to control if you've picked up more gel than what you need. And one of the things to bear in mind when you're doing an infill, you don't need as much product as when you're doing a new set, because you have already got that layer of gel down. We're mainly focusing on filling in the new growth and building up our strength and structure again. So I did exactly the same on the remaining two nails, and this is what the nails looked like. I'm then going to come in with one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and remove that tacky inhibition layer so that we can come in and file these nails. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about builder gel is it is so easy to file. So I find 90% of the time I only really use the 180 grit side of the file. I'm just going to come in, I'm keeping the same shape that the nails already were in the previous set. So I'm just neatening up that shape, and then I'm just coming over the surface of the nail, making sure it's all nice and smooth, there's no lumps or bumps, it's a nice even surface, making sure that I don't over file because I don't want to file down the product and remove my apex of my structure. Now, the Kiki London Builder Gels, they self-level absolutely beautifully. So I find I have quite minimal filing to do. And where they do file down really quickly and easily as well, you don't actually spend too much time filing. But what I do like to do is do a little bit of filing, dust away the dust and clean off the nail, take a look at it from all angles before I come in again and do any more filing. Then once I'm happy with the overall surface of the nail, I will just neaten up that free edge until I'm happy with it. And then again, I did exactly the same to the remaining 4 nails. Now I'm going to come in and buff the nails. So I'm going to use the 100 grit side of the Kiki London buffer, and I'm just buffing them to remove any scratches that have been left from the file. I don't want to over buff them or buff them with the too smooth side of the buffer because we're going to be putting the gel polish on the top, and we don't want to end up with a too smooth surface because then our gel polish might not stick. So once I have finished filing and buffing, you really need to make sure to give the nails a good clean. So again, I've brushed them off, and then I'm coming in with one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, really making sure to get down into those side walls, all around and underneath the nail, because you don't want any dust on the surface of the nail. And now it's time to come in and do our gel polish design. So I'm going to be using Pool Party, Tea Rose and Fiji Water in this set. Along with those 3 colours, I'm also going to be using 2 colours from the new Spring Bling collection. So here I have a Champagne Spritz and Aqua Azure. Now I'm loving the Spring Bling collection. I will leave a link below to the previous video where I swatched them all. There is 8 absolutely gorgeous glitter sparkly gel polishes, so you do need to check that video out if you haven't already, because we are only using 2 of them in this one. Now to start off with this design, I'm going to put my first coats of colour down. So I've done a tea rose on my pointer finger, and then I'm coming in with Pool Party on my middle finger. Now I love this colour, it's such a gorgeous teal blue. And when I was doing the swatches of the Spring Bling collection and I see Aqua Azure, I thought it would go beautiful with this colour for a mermaid inspired set of nails. So that's what we're going to be doing in this design. On the ring finger, I'm going to be using Fiji Water. Now, when you're applying your first coat of colour, I personally like to apply it really nice and thin. I like to make sure I'm getting as close to that cuticle area with my first coat as possible. Same goes for coming around those side walls. When I'm applying my first coat of colour, I'm not thinking about the coverage or how pigmented it looks. I'm just making sure to get a first coat of colour down, because when we come in and apply that second coat of colour, that's where we will see the colour build up and the pigmentation build up. So don't worry if the colour looks a little bit uneven or sheer on that first coat. A lot of Kiki London colours only require 2 coats, and it's when you apply that second coat of colour you really see the full opaqueness of the colour. So I'm also going to be doing a Pool Party on the little finger and the ring finger. And then once I've got all these first coats of colour down, I will pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. Now that we have that first coat of colour applied and cured, I'm going to come in and apply the second coat of colour. Now, I personally find the second coat a little bit easier to apply. I don't apply it, as thin. I kind of just float it on. You do still need to get as close to the cuticles as possible, but it's just a little bit easier to do with that second coat of colour. And as you can see here, once you're applying that second coat of colour, the colour really pops and you see the true colour basically. You can really see how even it looks and how opaque it looks. Now, depending on how thin you work with your lighter colours, sometimes you might find that they need 3 thin coats rather than 2. When I was first working with this colour, I wasn't sure if it was going to need a 3rd coat because the first coat did look a little bit sheer. But as you can see, I'm floating on that second coat of colour. I go over it a few times just to make sure I've applied it nice and evenly, and 2 coats was sufficient. This is such a gorgeous colour and it teamed up with the Pool Party absolutely beautifully. beautifully. And then once I had added the 2 glitter gels in from the Spring Bling collection, it all just looked absolutely beautiful. I really, really loved this set of nails, and I was so glad I did this on myself rather than on some nail tips for you guys, because I'm loving wearing these. Now, as you can see here, when I'm applying my gel polish, I'm allowing that brush to fan out, and this makes it a lot easier when you're trying to get a nice neat cuticle line, or you're trying to get really close to those side walls. If you just apply a little bit of pressure and allow the brush to fan out, it does a lot of the work for you. If you are struggling, however, with getting a neat cuticle line using the bottle brush, I would recommend grabbing the Kiki London 01 detail brush, because that really helps as well for getting nice and close to those cuticles. So now I'm going to come in with the Aqua Azure. Now this looked absolutely amazing on its own over a clear tip, but over the pool party I thought it looked mesmerizing. It's such a beautiful sparkly gel polish. Now glitter gel polishes, they are slightly thicker, like ever so slightly thicker than your regular gel polish, because they're jam packed with those glitter particles. So you'll see that when I'm applying it to the nail, I kind of rub it in to the tacky inhibition layer that's left from the colour. And I loved this colour so much that I had to put it over the top of both the middle finger and the little finger. Now I've also taken some of it on my palette, and then I'm going to take my stripe liner brush, and I decided I wanted to kind of have a thin French tip. So that was why I decided to pop down the T rose on the pointer finger. I've loaded up my stripe liner brush with that glitter gel polish, and I'm kind of just going along the very tip of the nail. I only wanted this to be a thin French tip because I'm really loving that look at the moment. At the moment, I feel as though there's quite a few twists on the regular French manicure, and glitter tips is one of them, and I've seen a lot of them where they're really thin, so that was what I was going for here. So I've come along the very tip of the side walls, taken it up to the point of my nail, and then I've just thickened it slightly as we curve around. Now I wanted it ever so slightly thicker than what it is, so what I'm doing is I'm just coming in and just going over that gently, taking the gel polish backwards and forwards just to thicken it up slightly. And I'm also making sure to really get around that tip of the nail with this as well. Now, usually when I'm doing a classic French manicure, I'll use certain other techniques to create that French tip shape. But because I wanted this to be very thin, a lot more thin than a regular classic French manicure, that's why I'm just using the very tip of my nail as a guide, and then just slightly thickening it up until I'm happy with how it looks. I did decide to come over the top and do a second coat of the sparkles just so they really popped, and how gorgeous do they look. Now I'm going to come in with another colour from the new Spring Bling collection. So this one is Champagne Spritz, and the name of this one just sums it up perfectly. As you can see, it's a gorgeous champagne colour. Now I'm going to be doing glitter fades with this one. So I'm going to do this using my ombre brush. But to begin with, I'm going to apply the glitter gel polish using the bottle brush. So I'm applying that glitter gel right down at the cuticle area, just taking a small amount and taking it roughly a quarter of the way down the nail. And then I'm going to come in with my ombre brush and just fade the top of that gel polish down the nail. So as you can see, I'm using really light strokes and just feathering the glitter gel out. These glitter gels are so easy to do things like glitter fades with, because they've got a clear or very sheer transparent base to them. The colour fades so effortlessly because all you're doing is really pulling the glitter down over the colour, if that makes sense. So if you just use nice soft light strokes with your ombre brush, you're able to fade that glitter out really nicely. So I wanted to do the same on the thumb as well, because on the thumb we've got the pool party, and on the ring finger we've got the Fiji Waters. So the Champagne Spritz looks ever so slightly different depending on what base it's over. Again, doing exactly the same as before, I'm just fading the top of that glitter gel down the nail. Then I've popped those into cure, and I decided again I wanted to do a second coat of colour just because I wanted it to be a little bit more opaque. So this is kind of personal preference. If you wanted a more subtle glitter fade, you just do the one coat. But if you want that more pop of sparkles, you can come in with the second coat, which is one of the things that I really love about these glitter gels because it makes them really versatile. Again, I'm just using really light strokes to feather that glitter down the nail and then popping it in to cure. I'm going to do exactly the same again on the thumb. So you can see I'm being really careful when I'm taking that up around those cuticle areas, just applying a little bit of product at a time. If you're not confident enough doing this with the bottle brush, I would recommend either using the round Kiki London brush or the detail brush even. And it's a lot easier to fade out that second coat of colour. So I'm just, again, using light strokes, but you're just adding that pop. We're not having to really create too much of a fade because we have done that with the first coat. Now, I absolutely loved how these looked on their own. They had that gorgeous mermaid vibe that I was going for, but I decided I would add in a little bit of stamping on the middle finger just to add on a stamped image of some mermaid scales. So before doing my stamping, I took another one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and removed the tacky inhibition layer from the gel polish just on that one nail that I'm going to do the stamping on. And then I've picked up this mermaid scale image and I'm just going to place it down over the entire nail. I knew that it wouldn't fit my entire nail, so I decided I'd just leave a slight gap at the bottom because it kind of looked a little bit like the whole mermaid fin vibe, or the mermaid tail vibe, sorry. And this is what the finished result looked like. Obviously, it's now time to come in and seal all our design and artwork in. So I'm going to be doing that using the Kiki London No Wipe top coat. I love this top coat. It is the shiniest top coat I've ever used. And I also love how well it works over stamping as well. So I'm going to apply a nice thin even layer of this to all of the nails, making sure I get nice and close and around those cuticles and sidewalls. And I just ever so slightly there, you see I cap the tip of the nail. So just make sure that that top coat is going right around the tip of your nail as well, because this will help minimize any chipping. Now I am going to top coat over the stamping nail. I just always like to do any stamping. I like to top coat that last just to make sure the stamped polish is fully dry. So I'm just top coating all of the other nails first. Now, when it does come to top coating over stamping, I like to just float that top coat over ever so slightly thicker than what I would have on the other nails, just because sometimes stamping can be a little bit tricky and you can find it smudges. So just floating that over helps. I then popped them in to cure, and how shiny do these look. Really, the top coat really makes the glitters pop, and I just loved how well these 4 colours, or 5 colours, sorry, work together. Now, I do always like to leave my top coat for a minute or two to cool before I come in and apply my cuticle oil, but I'm then taking my Kiki London Sweet Peach cuticle oil and I'm just going to apply a drop of that to each of the fingers and then really massage and rub that in just to replenish and nourish those cuticles from the treatment that we've just done. Then I do like to just give the nails a little wipe over, just the nails, with one of the alcohol pads before taking any photos, because they can look a little bit oily. If you prefer, you could get your clients to wash their hands. But I loved how these looked. So do let me know in the comments below what you thought of this set. I really hope you love them as much as I do, and I really hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, I would absolutely love it if you subscribed. I then shall see you in next Friday's video. Once again, thanks for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.